What if a single voice could make the world believe the past had returned? What if, for just a few seconds, people forgot the year, forgot the stage, forgot everything, because the sound felt like 1956 again? And what if that voice did not come from America, but from a small island in the Philippines? The theater lights were soft that night. The stage stood quiet, waiting. No one expected history to walk out in simple shoes. Backstage stood Miguel Reyes, a 17-year-old boy from Cebu. Thin shoulders. Calm eyes. A heart that carried both fear and fire. He was not famous. He was not rich. But he carried a voice that did not belong to his generation. Beside him stood Rosa Reyes, his mother. A laundry woman with tired hands and unbreakable faith. She believed in two things only, God and her son's gift. A few steps away was Daniel Cruz, Miguel's childhood friend. Quiet, loyal, the kind who never left even when dreams felt foolish. He had seen Miguel sing in empty basketball courts. He had heard neighbors whisper, laugh, doubt. Tonight, the whispers would be louder. The judges in the grand hall expected something modern. Something trendy. Not the shadow of a legend. When Miguel stepped onto the stage, the crowd saw only a simple Filipino teenager. Plain clothes. Nervous breath. No glitter. No drama. But then the music began. And the first note left his lips. The air changed. It was not just similar. It was not just close. It felt like Elvis Presley himself had stepped into the room. People froze. Some leaned forward. Some covered their mouths. How could this be possible? How could a boy from a small Philippine town carry the sound of a king who once ruled America? Was this talent? Or destiny? And what would happen when the world discovered where that voice truly came from? Because sometimes, the greatest surprises are not about how someone sounds. They are about where they come from. Miguel Reyes grew up in a small neighborhood in Cebu, where the houses stood close together and the mornings began with the sound of roosters and jeepneys. Life there was simple. Sometimes too simple. Their home had thin walls and a roof that trembled during heavy rain. When storms came, Miguel would quietly place buckets under the leaks before his mother even asked. He did not complain. He never did. At 17, Miguel carried himself with a calm that felt older than his age. He spoke little. He listened more. While other boys spent hours scrolling on their phones or playing loud games, Miguel preferred sitting near the small window of their house. That window was his stage. He would hum softly at first, careful not to disturb the neighbors. Then, slowly, the humming would grow into old melodies from another time. Songs made famous by Elvis Presley. He did not choose those songs because they were popular. He chose them because they felt like home inside his chest. Miguel's father had once loved those records. Before he passed away, he used to play them on a worn-out speaker that crackled with every beat. Those memories stayed. Miguel worked part-time after school, helping at a small repair shop. Grease often covered his fingers. But even while tightening screws or fixing broken fans, he sang quietly under his breath. Some customers smiled. Some stared. A few laughed and told him to sing something more modern. He would only nod politely. Deep inside, Miguel carried a silent fear. Not fear of singing. But fear of not being enough. He wondered if the world would ever accept a Filipino boy singing like an American legend. Still, every night before sleeping, he whispered the same promise to himself. One day, he would step onto a bigger stage. Not to become famous. But to prove that dreams do not care where you are born. The world loved legends. But it did not always welcome shadows. As Miguel grew older, the whispers grew louder. At first, people were impressed. They smiled when he sang at school events. They recorded him on their phones. But admiration slowly turned into doubt. Some said he was only copying. Some said he had no identity of his own. They told him he was hiding behind the voice of Elvis Presley instead of finding himself. Those words stayed longer than applause ever did. Miguel began to question his gift. Late at night, when the house was quiet and his mother was asleep, he would sit by the window without singing. Silence felt heavier than sound. He wondered if loving old music was a mistake. He wondered if his father's favorite songs were slowly becoming a burden instead of a blessing. The biggest wound came during a small local competition in Cebu. Miguel walked onto that modest stage with hope in his chest. He sang with all his heart. The audience clapped. But the judges gave him polite smiles and told him he needed to be more original. More modern. More marketable. He went home that night holding a participation certificate that felt like paper instead of pride. For the first time, he considered stopping. Not because he didn't love singing. But because he felt alone in loving it. His father was no longer there to tell him the music mattered. The world seemed to say it did not. Miguel's heart stood at a quiet crossroads. Should he change who he was just to fit in? Or should he keep singing in a voice that reminded him of home, even if no one understood? Sometimes the hardest battle is not against others. It is against the doubt that grows silently inside. The opportunity came quietly. It was not dramatic. It did not arrive with fireworks. It came through an online audition announcement for America's Got Talent. Miguel almost ignored it. America felt far away from Cebu. Too far for a boy who still helped fix electric fans after school. But Daniel saw the post first. He showed it to Miguel with steady eyes. Not excitement. Just belief. Miguel hesitated for days. He thought about the judges who said he was not original. He thought about the laughter. He thought about his mother counting coins at night to pay bills. How could someone like him stand on a stage watched by millions? But one evening, as rain tapped softly on their roof, Miguel found an old photo of his father holding a vinyl record of Elvis Presley. The photo was faded. But the smile was clear. In that quiet moment, something shifted inside him. He realized he was never trying to become Elvis. He was trying to keep a memory alive. And maybe that was not copying. Maybe that was honoring. Miguel submitted his audition video with shaking hands. No grand studio. No professional lights. Just a simple background and a borrowed microphone. Weeks passed. Then one morning, an email arrived. He had been selected. The world suddenly felt bigger than their small house. His mother cried softly when she read the message. Daniel stood silent, smiling in disbelief. Miguel felt two emotions at once. Fear. And freedom. For the first time, he understood something powerful. He did not need to change his voice. He only needed to own it. The stage in America would not just test his talent. It would test his courage to stand proudly as a Filipino boy carrying a sound from another era. And this time, he would not shrink. That night on the stage of America's Got Talent, when Miguel finally said he was from the Philippines, something beautiful happened. The surprise was not just about how he sounded. It was about who he was. The audience realized they had not been listening to a copy. They had been listening to a story. A story of a small house with a leaking roof. A mother with tired hands. A father's old record spinning in a quiet room in Cebu. Miguel did not stop being inspired by Elvis Presley. He simply stopped apologizing for it. And that changed everything. Because sometimes, the world will tell you to be different. To be newer. To be louder. But not every dream is meant to be modern. Some dreams are meant to carry memories forward. Miguel's journey was never about sounding like a legend. It was about proving that greatness does not belong to one country, one language, or one skin color. Talent can rise from a small island. From a narrow street. From a boy who once doubted himself. The real turning point was not the applause. It was the moment he accepted who he already was. And maybe that is the lesson hidden inside his story. You do not have to erase your roots to reach the world. You do not have to silence the songs that shaped you. The very thing people question about you might be the thing that makes you unforgettable. Miguel walked onto that stage as a nervous teenager. He walked off knowing something powerful. Your origin is not your limitation. It is your strength. And when you finally stand tall in your truth, the world does not just hear your voice. It feels your story.